wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to GAIS, the Reading Circle. And this is your host, Abdullah Suji, broadcasting live from South Africa, from this majestic place called the Drakensberg. It's an almost 3,800 elevation. You can see the mountain range behind me in the distance. And I'm here with the boys of Al Falah College. We're out on an overnight stay. We're returning to school on Monday. So I've made time to talk to my favorite friend whom I met. And we're talking about a book called Collaborative Leadership by Dr. Syed Misbahuddin. I want to introduce him to you so that inshallah, when he greets you, you'll know who you are replying to. Well, Dr. Syed Misbahuddin is an educationist by choice, people. I want you to understand this, an educationist by choice, which means that there's a deliberate planning in his life to see education as a means to benefit humanity, and a recipient of outstanding contribution in education. And this is not only particular to one country, but I would say the world over. Award for his consistent research to engage various stakeholders towards the common goal of developing leadership in children as the outcome of education. My personal interaction with Dr. Misbah also tells me that he possesses a variety of skills from industry to schools and software development, consulting, and networking. And his engineering background from the Osmani University, he pursued an MS in Information Systems and Project Management from the DePaul University, amongst other. And he furthered his managerial skills with project management, the PMP certification from PMI, Pennsylvania. Really, the list is long, and I do not want to get the listeners too involved in that, because I want you to listen to him because it will resonate. His exceptional pedigree. Dr. Misbah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome onto the program here on the reading circles
Walaikum
of
salam wa
GIS.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How,
Is-
how are you this
yeah,
this afternoon for me in South Africa? What time is it for you that side?
It's early morning over here, 6 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, great stuff. So people who are listening, please excuse the noise in the background. We're at a resort. Our boys are out on a different setting. And the book that we are reviewing today, the book is called Collaborative Leadership Framework for Schools, an education guide to prepare leaders of tomorrow. And it is for us now to look at it, and we are going to discuss this book. Now, the following questions will be tabled in such a way to accommodate for a conversational style, right?
MashaAllah.
And thank you for that. I'm just getting the vibe of the place around here. So please don't hesitate, to add questions to the platform in the chat column. So we will get an understanding of how the program goes. So I've opened the program by having to give you an overview of who Dr. Misbah was, and I've introduced him. But I want to give you a synopsis of this book. And this is the book I'm holding up. I've read it cover to cover. I've made personal notes. And just to show you, that's my last note I've made, amongst others. And this book has taught me many things. But the takeaway is this: if you're not going to level down to level up in your classroom, in your school, in your institution, you'll never know the grassroots. And the takeaway was it is team leadership, collaborative leadership in the 21st century that will take any institution to great levels. So, Dr. Misbah, my opening question relates to your passion to plant in the heart and mind of every teacher the seeds of leadership. Why is it so important? Because you know you have written this book. So how do you think this book
Yes.
will leverage, you know, uh, people in their various categories, particularly for the audience, who are listening and they want to know what were the reasons behind writing such a book when there's a plethora of management books out there, Dr. Misbah?
Jazakallah, Brother Abdullah, for a wonderful introduction and a summary of the book. And also, I thank you for inviting me to this program. And I'm sure that you have thoroughly read the book the way you're asking the questions. So my journey to education was by an accident. I never knew that I would get into education. I've been into software. I've done project management, and I have been into management consulting in US. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me an opportunity to work with some schools, and that's how slowly I started to understand how the whole education system evolved, right from its initial stages to industrial revolution, and then this concept of public education, and then the one that we see today. So I've been asking one question again and again: what is it that we expect from our kids? So my initial research, took me to research by Harvard University. It's one of the longest research, like maybe more than 72 years, and it was done on a generation of students, and right from the children when they were in their primary school up till some of them passed away, or maybe they reached it in the 70s or something. So this is 72 years research, and the end of the research, a very simple outcome that has come was: if you want your child to be successful in life, then you allow them to do two things, help them do two things. And I'm like, wow, 72 years of research and only two things. So the first thing was help them do household chores, household work, and all of that. And the second thing was help them learn how to love each other. And I was very curious when I read these two. And then when I try to study further, I realized that when you allow or help your children do household chores, you're actually helping them take responsibility of their self, of their own self, responsibility for their own actions, responsibility for their own work. And then when you allow them or help them learn how to love, you are actually helping them take the responsibility of others. So ultimately, it's the responsibility, helping them make people responsible, right? So leadership is not just taking charge or calling out, "Hey, I'm a leader, follow me." No, it's not about that. Leadership is all about taking responsibility for whatever you do, wherever you are. So if we want our children to be successful, then the whole idea was, we have to make them leaders, or I would rather say contributors, because all contributors are leaders. All leaders may not be contributors, but all contributors are leaders. And that's the reason why this framework got into picture. I wanted children to be contributors from our schools. And what I realized is that only leaders can prepare leaders. You cannot just expect children to become leaders and contributors without giving them example, without showing them, a role model or a
Subhanallah, I
roadmap.
have to, I have to
MashaAllah.
interject there, because when I read the book,
MashaAllah.
I realized that you need to
Uh-huh.
teach grassroots skills, and we have
Mm-hmm.
forgotten the grassroots skills of household chores as a means of
Mm.
attaining responsibility in the home and maintaining
Yes.
the responsibility in the home, and that goes with you to school. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, every book has an inspiration, Misbah, and a lead from the last question indicates that there was more than just one stimulus to write this book, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you get into the meat of the book and the number of diagrams which you share, which we will talk about later. Take us through the journey of this informative and instructive book, because when I read the book, I was reading Dr. Misbah as a child. I was reading Dr. Misbah as a professor. I was reading Dr. Misbah as a principal. And I was also reading Dr. Misbah as a person who
MashaAllah.
was, and I'm going to use this word, and probably you can refuse
Uh,
to accept it, but I'm sure you would. Dr. Misbah, as a point in time, confused about how children learn. Therefore, you did a research. So all of that research,
yes.
wow, it's punctuated in this book. So take us through the
Mm-hmm.
journey of the stimulus or the stimuli behind writing this book, Dr. Misbah.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah, brother. So, the journey of writing this book is the journey of my, venture into education. So, like I said, I first got into a group of institution. I just wanted to help it manage things professionally. But then, like I told you, the first question was, what do we expect from children, and how are we actually achieving it? So this journey, it took me into a lot of research. I went back and I saw that the schools today are focusing more on what is more obvious, like the skills, and they're making them driven by the industry, driven by what is required in the market, I would say, rather than the original understanding of schools would shape the society. So when I went back, I realized that reading and writing, or just preparing for exams or preparing for some job, is not what is expected. It's not what is the job of a school. What is really expected is that we prepare children for life. So,
Mm-hmm.
I thought let's move away from reading and writing. You see, if reading and writing, you see, I've asked many parents, why are you sending your child to school? There's they become eligible, and they become more market ready, job ready. I said, what is they would read and write. I said, reading and writing is like maybe few hours of job. I've done a research on reading skills. You can impart somebody reading skills within 60 to 70 hours. Writing is also not a big deal. So what is actually expected is preparing your children to prepare for something that we don't even know. So more than teaching them, what's more important is helping them learn. In fact, I would say helping them learn how to learn. And that's the reason why the first cornerstone, the first pillar of my book, of my or the stimulus, is that what is expected of a child is to help them learn how to learn. So that's the first thing that I have written there. But then learning is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Imam Shafiq,
Absolutely.
Rahmatullah alayhi, has said that the example of a person with knowledge who has learned but not implemented is like that of a donkey with books on its back. You know, whatever you
I,
learn
li-
and
I like that.
understand. Yeah. Yes, brother.
If I could interject there,
Uh-huh.
because you make such a valid point, Dr. Misbah. Look at the scenario I'm in.
Uh-huh.
I'm here with learners out on camp, and they watching me interviewing you, and
Uh-huh.
they're getting ready for a swim in the sweltering day, and they're learning, and they're asking
Definitely.
questions like, is sir doing an interview,
Mhm.
and he's taking his work with us. So you're right.
Yes.
Reading and
Yes.
writing can be mastered, quantitatively and qualitatively, but
Uh-huh.
leadership is different. So that's why I
Exactly.
asked the question again. Was
MashaAllah.
was the point? Was teaching leadership the stimulus behind writing this book, or was it something else?
So the main stimulus was, I wanted to come up with a structure. So basically, we talk a lot, we see a lot of things, and whatever I've written in a book is, I feel like it's not new. But what was needed was that a proper structure for everybody to understand that, hey, this is what a child needs in a school, and this is what all of us can provide it together. So, like I said, learning to learn is the first thing, the first pillar, and then implementing what they have learned is like learning how to live what they have learned. So the second pillar, and the third one is helping others with what they have learned and lived. That is the third one. That is leadership. Leadership is not claiming, rather pulling up sleeves and helping others. Even if they don't ask for help, you're going out of the way to help people. So learn, live, and lead. This is the structure that I have come up with. So now, in order for a child to learn, live, and lead, how all the stakeholders can come together, right? And how all the stakeholders can do their part, right? Like what a teacher has to do, what an alim has to do, what parents have to do, what principal has to do, what the school management has to do. If everybody do whatever they're supposed to in a properly synchronized fashion, like how you have like interwoven threads. Thread, it's so I would say it's so versatile. I mean, it doesn't have that capacity, but it woven properly. Like one strand going down and the other one when you loom it properly, then it becomes so
Yes.
strong, right? That it secures your hire. You trust it with your hire. So that's the reason why we need to make all the teachers, I mean, all the stakeholders who has the capacity to influence a child has to come together and work in unison, so that we achieve the objective of learn, live, and lead for a child. So that was the main motivation of giving a structure and understanding the
Absolutely.
outcome.
Now I want to pick up that point because uh, I've actually penned down questions for you because
Mm-hmm.
when I read this book, I realized it's not an easy book to review because it's so practical. One has to read it. So I've written this one question, and it says, you describe the book as a humble reflection of the decades of long research on the challenges
Uh-huh.
faced by children today. So discuss this in the light of the purpose and the outcome of education. Now, you have alluded to it, but again, this book is not only for teachers, it's not only for principals. If I were to give it to a pupil in grade 10, he would make sense
Mm-hmm.
of it. So, you know, um, why was it a humble reflection and the pupil the focus of the book as well, amongst the focus of the pupils, but primarily we have the teacher, the principal, and boards. Dr. Misbah?
Thank you, brother. Uh, you're really helping me, go back into the journey of writing this book. Thank you so much. I know you, yeah, it feels like I'm reliving those days. So, so yes, this book was more of a quest because I was not from the education background and I was learning things myself. Right, so it's a complete journey, and it's like a hard pour of and it was more like it was on demand by a lot of educators. I used to give sessions of what I have learned, and I used to give a lot of presentations, and when people requested me, teachers requested me that why don't I put it together. That's when I started doing giving the shape of this book. So one concept that I mentioned, the one of the challenges that I mentioned is the challenge of miseducation. I say that uh, the greatest of the frauds or the greatest of the corruption are not done by those who are not educated. It's the educated ones, like, who do the greater evils. And I ask them why do they do that. The reason is the education of mind was probably focused upon, but not the education of the heart, right? So the education was not complete. So the kind of system, the way we are following it now is like you focus on one side, but then you are not actually appealing to the holistic elements of children. So ultimately, what you end up doing is, you leave them neither educated nor uneducated. The children are rather
Yes, yes, it's.
miseducated.
I get the understanding. You're trying to
Uh,
tell the teacher, don't load the donkey with more books.
mhm.
You know,
Yes.
I like that metaphor because it's important to look at. So, Dr. Misbah, I can't get enough of this because in my reading,
Mashallah.
I understand that the focus is on the teacher as an
Uh-huh.
individual, right? Uh,
Right.
in the school, you focus on the teacher as an individual in the school, and I want listeners to understand the question. We're
Mm-hmm.
focusing, Dr. Misbah focuses on the teacher as an individual in the school and also as a participant in the school's culture and ethos, not
Yes.
a contributor, but a participant. And that's a big difference there. So, therefore, collaboration is important. And
Mm-hmm.
why is the framework then established so early in the book? Collaborative leadership, collaborative teaching, collaborative framework. At one point, I was thinking, gosh, I've actually
Uh,
mastered the word collaboration.
Mashallah. Mashallah. What a question. Yes, brother. So if I have to address this, see the intention. See, I tend to I tend to create mystery and curiosity as well. But when I was
Mhm.
writing this book, the idea was not to conclude into a framework and create that wow factor. It was rather more like setting up a structure in the beginning, right? And then reminding them again and again and again in different ways that this is how you can make a difference. This is how you can be a part of a collaborative system where everybody works together. So the main reason for introducing this structure in the beginning was that let them first understand that you have to have a structure in place. You have to understand where do you fit in, what is expected of others, and then how do you do your part, and how do you help and enable others to do their part, so that ultimately all of us work together towards the outcome of education for a child, that is learn, live, and lead. And that's so that was the main reason why I introduced it early. And then as you can see in the book, then it's all about then and reminding everybody that, okay, this is your part, and this is how you do your part, and this is how you work with others.
Dr. Misbah, it's like, you reading my mind and I'm reading your mind. And I must tell you how enviable it is now to watch the boys go for a swim on this sweltering day. I've got the majestic Drakensberg mountain behind me and I'm watching the pool here.
Mashallah.
But this is the thing which I find unique about this book.
Mhm.
Now what interested me profoundly, were all the questions that you have in the books. In the book, it is so logical, it is chronological, the
Mhm.
reflections, the engagements, the engagement exercises that you have placed in the book, are strategic, in my opinion. And for example, in
Jazakallah.
the first part of the book, you have this QR code,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I wondered, what
Yes.
is this stuff? I said,
Yeah.
Amen. I want to read the book. I don't need the QR code, but I went on and I put the QR code on, and it launched me to a questionnaire on Google Forms, and it was great. So, explain why
Alhamdulillah.
you made this book so much postmodernist in the sense that it's interactive and you're allowing the reader to draw his or her own
Mm.
conclusions. Take us through this QR code, the strategic placement of exercises and reflections, because it really engages one with the book and you feel you are talking to the author directly. Lovely. Take us through.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. I love the way you're asking questions, mashallah. So brother, um, see, I have written early on in the starting part of the book itself. I've mentioned how learning takes place. There's active learning, there's passive learning, and then active learning. You learn by seeing, by listening, and you also learn by doing things. uh, and then of course you learn by teaching as well. So the whole idea was, what you write and what you say, what you preach, you should also put it into action. And I wanted those who have taken this book, to use this book as their as a journal, to write down their reflections of what they have read, how they're implementing it, and how they can get back to me with their feedback on how it is impacting them, so that the next version of the book can address those learnings as well. So that's the reason why there are a lot of QR codes when I'm expecting reflections and feedback from the people who are reading it. On the other hand, there are activities. So the activities are helping these teachers, principals, leaders, whoever is reading this book, actually write down. So once you write down something with your own hands, then this book becomes so dear to you, right? You get back to it. See, if you have a book, a printed book, then yes, it has value. But then if you write something in it, then it adds value. You go back to it, you refer to it. And so that's the reason why I wanted them to read something, implement it, write it down, and then get back to it again and again. And that will help them use whatever they have learned, and create an impact in the schools.
I have to agree with you because I've actually personalized this book now. It is like Abdullah Suji and Misbah.
uh, yes.
And I like what
Yeah,
Idris has
mashallah.
mentioned on the chat, that it's ample, evidence of your Alhamdulillah greatness that you have produced this book.
Mashallah.
And I want you to bear with me because my phone is on a tripod and the wind is picking up. So if it happens to go this way or that way, please bear with me. Now, you describe the purpose of education,
Hmm.
in very good detail. Amongst other explanations is that the fundamental duty is to help children become trustees of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I found that remarkable, because many people write books on leadership and Allah is not part of the
Mm.
equation. But here you
Yes,
say that education, the fundamental purpose is to link the creation with the creator, thereby making
definitely.
youngsters trustees of Allah on earth. So, discuss why you make the purpose of education the cornerstone of this book, and I want you to elaborate on it because people miss the point that Allah is in
Hmm.
every equation, even if we
Most
tend to
definitely.
think otherwise.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So it took me almost 6 years, just to put six boxes. It took me almost 6 years. So I don't know how many authors, psychologists, and most importantly, ulama ikram that I've been to. I've sat with my folded hands. With a with a bowl of requesting them for their years of knowledge. Because I couldn't understand the meaning of tarbiyah. I couldn't understand the meaning of talim, the way it should be put into a proper structure. And the question about purpose, why, that kept lingering in my head, and I couldn't get over it. So finally, Maulana Abdul Samad is a great mentor, Alhamdulillah, and he guided me towards an ayah in the Quran, and he said, "Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa." Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has mentioned quite a few times why He has created us, for ibadah and for all our different ways. But this ayah, it stands out. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. So when I try to make sense out of it, Allah Ta'ala is telling that you, me, and all the children out there, all of us are khalifa. And then what? And then then I worked upon I traveled on the path of understanding what is being a khalifa. Is a khalifa meaning a leader, deputy? Then I understood, and then when I explored further, I realized that representing Allah Subhanahu wa Taala the way He would expect us to do, right? So that is like is beyond representation. It's like acting, beyond representing. It's acting the way Allah Subhanahu wa Taala expects us. So that is closer to the word trustee. So now, if we have, so Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has sent us as trustee, we must understand whose trustee are we. We are the trustee, we are the khalifa, we are the representative of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So who is Allah Subhanahu wa Taala? Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is a Rabb. So what is the meaning of Rabb? Rabb is the one who nourishes, right? And then when I worked with ulama, so they gave me the definition that Rabb is tadrijan kamal tak pahunchana. So it means gradually fulfill the needs till the destination, or till the height of its wherever it has to. So then I started converting it, simplifying it, and finally I came up with a definition called a Khalifa is the one who represents Almighty in such a way that he fulfills the needs of the needy as needed. Fulfills the needs of the needy as needed, and that's when this whole thing evolved. So if you're preparing someone to fulfill the needs of the needy as needed, then he must realize what special powers and talent and abilities does he have. So this helped the child to embark on a journey of exploring himself, understanding the skills, the special talent that he has. So once I understand that I've got this particular skill set, which has been, blessed and granted upon me by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, then I would use those special abilities and powers and competencies to find those needy and then fulfill the needs of the needy as needed. And that's all about contribution. That's about leadership, and that's about fulfilling the purpose of our existence. So if I do this part as a teacher, then I am fulfilling my purpose. How? By helping a child find his purpose, I am fulfilling the purpose of my existence. So that's the reason why it revolves a lot about purpose, because it helps teacher realize that their purpose of life is to help children fulfill their purpose in life. Similarly, principals are the enablers. So their purpose in life is to create this environment and help teachers, help students, so that they understand the purpose of their life and fulfill it. And that's how we produce, lots of contributors to solve the problems that we have and the problems that are yet to come.
Absolutely, and you drive such an important point, because we have to connect our lives with spirituality, and the life of Islam offers that spirituality like no other faith. And I'm
Definitely.
glad you brought that up. So I want to inform the listeners, if you have to pick up the book and read, it reads so well. It's not scholarly. It is not a reference book that you'll need a dictionary to understand this jargon and that jargon. Really, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, the outcome of education, therefore, coming out from the fact that you have to connect the creation with the creator, It's understood to
Definitely.
be integrated in three stages. You've alluded to it, but I want to now pick it up. There are three stages. Number one, learn. Number two, live. Number
Learn,
three, lead.
lead.
So outline why this has to be ingrained within the teacher, and by extension, the managers and administrators of schools. That means
Mm-hmm.
learning, living, and leading. Dr. Misbah?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So, so during the journey of this book, like, like what of why of education, then how of education, right? So when I was mentioning how of education, that's where I've come up with this concept of learn, live, and lead. And learn, live, and lead are actually three stages of a child to become to fulfill his purpose, to become a Khalifa, to become a contributor in life. So I've mapped this with tarbiyat and talim, right? Because
Mhm,
tarbiyat and talim is what is what is the how, this is what we do in schools. This is what we have been doing. This is what is expected from school. So now when I map these, learn, live, and lead, I've mapped this with with the capacity building as well. So what I mean by this is, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you a Khalifa, it's a big responsibility, right? So
mhm,
with great responsibility, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also equipped you in the form that is the best of the creation. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So ahsan taqweem is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. He has given you the best of the body, right? Among all there may be other powerful creations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, but the way He has created you is unique, is beautiful, is probably the best, right? And then for this body to manage this body, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a very powerful mind. And then in order for this mind to make the right decision, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a heart, which houses soul. So body, mind, heart, and so this framework has come into picture. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this body, mind, heart, and soul as taqweem, the best model, and He
mhm.
has equipped you with this, right? So now if you have to apply, so body and mind are more zahir, they are more visible. So this is what is a part of talim. Heart and soul are more intangible, invisible. This is the part of tarbiyah.
Hmm.
So
You
when
know, I
when when
want
you
to,
put this, yeah,
yeah, I
yes,
want to,
brother.
I want to come in there. So, as I said in the beginning, we want to make this interview very conversational.
Mm-hmm.
You have brought me back to chapter one. With this
Yes.
whole discussion, you have brought me back to chapter one. So fundamental. You alluded to it in the first part of our conversation. Dr. Misbah, this whole concept of miseducation, elaborate
Mm-hmm.
on this issue, because we are missing the boat. We think education is the drudgery of academic prowess, which has its place. But you
Yes.
talk of miseducation in a very profound way. Elaborate on miseducation, because putting your trust in Allah is actually the fundamental core of
Right.
education. Can you elaborate on
Right.
that? Because for me, to have put miseducation in chapter one, and then you bring it in at the end of the book where you say, are you educated by what you've learned so far, Dr. Misbah?
Right. Yes, brother. So the concept of miseducation. If we do not engage holistically with the child, if we do not empower them or maybe enable their potential, then and if you're only addressing the mind, then we
Mhm,
are creating potential selfish educated people. I would not say people, because in the midst of all this is education, we are losing the human element, right? The children are going through cutthroat competition. They're learning how to win, how to succeed, and how to live selfishly, and they would do anything to make themselves successful. So then this brought the definition of what is success. So I say, the typical definition of success is to have fame, power,
uh-huh.
wealth, or knowledge, whether whatever you call it, right? Daulat, shahrat, izzat,
May, may I may
whatever
I
you call
ask?
it.
May I just come in here with a point?
Mm-hmm.
The capitalist system, and this is what your book is contesting. The capitalist system is telling you the NHI, the high network individual, the HNI, the high network individual, is the one that's got fame and the most money. Whereas you saying the high network individual is the one who has greatest of taqwa and can use his knowledge for the benefit of humanity, because that is what I'm getting through as I'm reading
Very
the
true.
book. Is am I correct in
Very
that?
very, very true. So all these factors which I mentioned, I say, it's not that you don't achieve them, you don't try to you know earn them, but the point which I'm trying to make is that whether it is money, fame, network, whatever it is, you earn it only to spend it in the right direction. You
Dr. Misbah,
spend it to please Allah
you're
subhanahu
coming
wa ta'ala.
across a bit
Yeah.
muffled. Okay, let's take that point again. That first few
uh,
seconds were a bit muffled. Can you repeat that again, please?
yeah, I said that the critical factors of success, whether it is money, fame, name, whatever it is, so these, it's not that you don't have to earn this. The point is you have to earn this to be able to spend it. The point which I'm trying to make is that success is not about achieving all this. It's about earning this so that you can spend it
I
in the
have
right
to come
direction.
in here, Dr. Misbah. I have to come in here. We'll be losing your sound. You're coming
Oh,
across
okay,
very muffled. We're going to try this
okay,
one more time. Let's just pick up on the question, the taqwa uh, that you present in the book, which is fundamental. So, miseducation is taking children away from the belief in Allah. That's what I get
mm-hmm,
from the book, isn't it?
mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. So yes, let me come back. In this miseducation part, I've spoken about success, that it's not about earning things, it's rather about spending it in the right direction. But then in order to enable them to spend it, what you have to do is you have to address holistic development. So in my understanding, holistic development is addressing body, mind, heart,
Dr.
and soul.
Misbah,
If you
may I ask a question? May I suggest
uh-huh,
that you link up again, because you're fading and you're becoming very muffled, and we
oh,
cannot hear
okay,
you at all. So maybe Idris
okay,
can assist us there. You can log off and log on, and I'll just keep the conversation going in that few seconds.
okay, okay, sure, definitely.
We're just having a few technical issues there. Dr. Misbah is coming across very muffled with the connection, and
Uh,
we
Brother, Dr. Misbah, you are just fine.
okay,
Dr. Misbah was fine,
okay.
but he's reconnecting and put him up,
Re-
inshallah.
Reconnecting. Okay, thank you for that. So I just want to reiterate what Dr. Misbah was saying about the fact of connecting yourself to Allah through your education, through your leadership, and I found that profound. And this book is so good at making that real, and that is why I find this book practical for any teacher, for any person. So I want to engage with the audience, and I want you to understand the following: that if your career path is not leading you to write your own anecdotes about your leadership in the classroom, then surely you're selling yourself short, because when you read Dr. Misbah's book, you'll find that he's actually taken the trouble and the time to get into his personal experiences and then documenting that and then getting into research on that. And that is how he actually got his book into publication after years. And that is profound. And you'll find that I've used this word approximately maybe 4 times already, not because I'm short of vocabulary, but to illustrate the point that when you are unique, you stand out from the crowd and you make an impact. So, inshallah, we'll be joining, Dr. Misbah will be joining us again, and we're good to go. Idris, do we have Dr. Misbah back?
I'm just waiting for him. I'll get in
Okay,
touch.
inshallah. And while we're waiting for that, I want to read one part of the book which I found really, so important to consider, and it starts like this. He says, he quotes Imam Ghazali. He says, Imam Ghazali once said, knowledge exists potentially in the human soul like the seed in the soil. By learning, the potential becomes actual. If the caretakers of children and education systems come together for proper upbringing of children, of each child, grooming them in the right direction, they can reach the pinnacle of human potential. All that is needed is the right supply of resources in the right proportions, at the right time, in the right environment, for the right purpose. Being wise is imparting education. That is how Dr. Misbah has put that in. Dr. Misbah, welcome back, mashallah.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah. I hope I'm clear and audible
Ah,
now.
you're absolutely clear and bright as the sun in front of me. Now,
MashaAllah.
I think we've discussed the point, but we'll bring that up again because we have got so many more questions. Can you believe it? We've been speaking for 40 minutes.
Oh
Now,
my God. I realized
I
that.
want to refer to
Uh,
page 22 and page 23, right? It is very
mm-hmm.
interesting to note that you have various diagrams, tables, charts, and the likes to illustrate the point. Please explain why the diagram body, mind, soul, and heart, together with the tabular diagram describing education, was necessary over over any word and explanation. Furthermore, explain these concepts, that resonate from this, because every diagram you put in there has an explanation, and then as the reader, you need to interact with it. And I had to write on it. So take us through all of that. Jazakallah.
MashaAllah. 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 So I'm also going through through the diagram that you're asking for. The body,
I,
the
I've
page
got the
number
book in front
26.
of me,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I've got it open as well, right?
Uh,
I've got that open in front of me as well, and this is how it looks, right? If you can,
yes, yes, yes.
I know with the sun.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
mashallah.
yeah.
There you are.
Yes, mashallah.
Okay, can you see author and reader? Wow, you're not going to get
Oh.
this anytime. Bismillah.
Inshallah. So I'm restating this, that the purpose of writing this book was to create structure in the minds of uh, all the stakeholders that influence a child in his or her education. So the more pictures and the more structures I use, the more it will leave an image, and the more it will be ingrained into the minds. Body, mind, heart, soul. It's just said and then done. I have used this particular picture to explain holistic development. Why is it important for children? I was quoting from UNESCO's sustainable goals, and why they think that inclusive education, quality education, scientific education, all those things. Then I said, all of this combined, if we focus on the holistic framework, which is body, mind, heart, and soul, and how to focus. When you say body, what does it incorporate? When you say mind, how and what you're supposed to address? And when you say heart, what are the elements that I mean into this? And then if we can actually start doing this, see, all this framework, the inspiration behind this was the conference that was organized in 1977, WCOME, World Conference on Muslim Education. When I started my journey of learning, understanding the purpose of education, I happened to fumble upon the presentations and the material from that conference, and I realized that integrated approach is the way forward. If you do not come up with this lens, this worldview from Islamic point of view, then you will end up creating children who will be so selfish in the name of modern so-called secular behavior. They'll be robbed of their identity, they'll be robbed of their potential, and also the ability or the purpose of becoming a khalifa. And that's the reason why my approach was towards creating an integrated curriculum, integrated activities, integrated resources, wherein every single subject, every single day, in every single class, the child would come closer to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. The child would do activities that addresses his his body, mind, heart, and soul from tarbiyat and talim perspective. So that's how he gets closer to the purpose of his creation. And that's the reason why you see a lot of pictures, a lot of diagrams, and a lot of ways of making it more engaging and rememberable.
Absolutely. You can see I've changed my
Yeah.
view because the sun is changing its
Yeah.
direction. So I'm battling, with the wind. I'm battling keeping the tripod up. But,
That's
for the
engaging as
listeners,
well.
I can tell you, subhanAllah, I haven't even touched any other chapter. Gosh, we haven't even touched
Allahumma.
the,
Allahumma.
the quintessence of this book. And really now, Dr. Misbah, in the chapters that follow, now I'm just speeding it up into part 2 of the book. One is absorbed into so many things. the reality of how education should be dispensed. We always talk of what is in the classroom, but how education should be dispensed, if that is the right word to use at this point, or how education takes place, how education is dispensed, how education is dispensed. So the concept of the collaborative framework, right? Explain this
Mm-hmm.
methodology of the how of education, because it's very unique. I enjoyed it because it got me thinking on everything I learned from Robin Barrow to Robin Jeffcoat and to, Robin Smith and his book on reading and so many others, Dr. Misbah.
Jazakallah, brother. You're comparing with those names, Jazakallah khair. Brother, this how factor, I've tried to use metaphors, like try to use examples to relate and also to emphasize on the significance of each role. So one example that I've used is that of a car. And I wanted to say that all of us will have to work together. If one of us do not work, the car will not move. So the four tires of it, I said that, if it's only teacher, principal and students, then it's like a three-wheeler. You have to include parents as well. You have to make parents a part of the day-to-day process. Only then it will be a well-oiled machine. That was one thing. The other thing I mentioned, that a management or the school leadership is also a wheel, but not the one that works on day-to-day basis, not the regular one. It's a wheel, rather the steering wheel of the car, which takes decisions, which gives directions, and which actually keeps an eye on the vision. So like this, I've given roles. I've given different roles to used metaphors. Similarly, I've used example. I've seen institutions that focus so much on infrastructure, right? I've seen so great institutions in the past which are now they're ruins. They just as
Mhm.
infrastructure is there, nothing is remaining because people emphasize so much on infrastructure. So I say infrastructure is like the body of the car, but what is actually the engine is not the infrastructure. It's the curriculum. So the need for setting up or developing your own curriculum, which will fulfills the vision. So all these examples, I've even related some research. There was a research done by Azim Premji University in India. They have kind of they have done research on more than 1800 schools, and they said that quality of infrastructure do not impact the quality of education. It is the curriculum, and then the teacher, the quality of teachers. And so I've tried to relate some of those factors from the researchers, and then I've also used the example of culture. I said, no matter how good your system would be, your curriculum would be, if you do not have a proper road, then your car will not move. It will bump, and then no matter how smooth it,
Okay.
how no
So,
but
so
so I've
I
used
want
those
to come in
metaphors. Yes.
here. I want to come in here because you already read my mind for the next question, because the most important part that was the takeaway for me. Sorry, I'm wearing these shades now
Uh huh.
because the sun is just amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
subhanallah. So you talk
So.
of a culture deck, that the
Mm-hmm.
school can
Mm-hmm.
establish. Wow, it was
Yeah.
something, inshallah, that we want to implement at Al Falah College one day soon, inshallah, because
Alhamdulillah.
of the way you explained it. Now, what intrigued me greatly was your discussion and your dissertation on goal-oriented schooling goes a long way to
Mm-hmm.
ensure holistic development in students, a pilot study. And this lend itself to this idea of the culture deck. It's like an
Mm-hmm.
expectation that the school should aim to. It drives vision, it drives mission. But the way you put it in your book at the end in part two is very
Mm-hmm.
strategic for me. So why do you keep such a gem at the end or towards the
Mm-hmm.
end of the book, Doctor?
It was more like a pilot study. It was very, because it has data in it. It has evidence in how you can actually improve the performance, the quality of a school and its teachers and its children by implementing this framework. So one of the projects that I've done was goal oriented schooling, like you mentioned. So the idea was, I wanted teachers to understand that this is doable. So the first thing we did was, we kind of formed a team of teachers and addressed their challenges. One of the challenges that we saw was teachers do not eat breakfast. Teachers have challenges,
Mhm.
coming on time. teachers have challenges keeping up with drinking water during the day, and maintaining their health. So, we first, had a brainstorming session with teachers and tried to address their challenges, and then invited them to now address the challenges of students. They said how. Then we said, okay, we will create a score. We call it the weighted average score for every teacher based on what subjects they are teaching, which classes they are teaching, and what is the performance of the student. And then we gave a score to the teacher, like a report card, but not on a published one. And then we said, how would you like to increase this score? If you have to increase this score, then you will have to work with every child on based on the framework of collaborative leadership. So that's when teachers then teachers themselves, they formed groups. We call them class groups. And class groups, then all the teachers who teach a particular class, they form a class group, and the class group went to the classes and they started discussing with children, hey, you know what, your class has got this score and I have been given this score. What do you say about increasing this score further? And the children were like, they were also like very interested. They're like, how can we do that? And then they started asking the children to give commitments, social commitments of what they are doing right now and how can they improve themselves. So there was like setting goals in all the three areas of learn, live, and lead. So the children were giving goals, setting it up, and then the teacher, then there was like the current standards, and then the assured goals from the children, and then expected scores. So that's how, when we
Mhm.
created a social commitment by children, and teachers and students started working together, we saw such a drastic change in the school, in the learning potential of the children, how they were performing academically, their skills. We have conducted a different kind of assessments for skills. And also, I've applied brother Khamisa's, Idris Khamisa's model of merits and demerits to boost, the leadership capacity. Again, it's collaboration. So, instead of giving them points of merits and demerits for individual performance, we started forming teams, and then we started giving it to different teams, and that's when they started helping each other and to show that. So, anyways, so these were some of the things, and all of them are documented in the book, that with the application of such principles, within I think within 6 to 8 months, we could see visible changes and visible results in the performance of the entire school. And this was published, and this is one of the papers which contributed, towards the award that have got outstanding achievement in the field of education. So this is one of the researchers, and there was another research this also published, that is about interacting with parents, how to involve parents, right, and helping them become a part of it in tarbiyah process. So that research is also published in the book. Again, so these are some of the papers
Yes,
I've put
I
at the
like.
end of the book. Yeah.
Yes, I've
Yes,
seen.
brother.
I've read the study, and I've read the studies. That's why this culture deck, for me, it's very grassroots. You don't deal with it like how you deal with the mission and vision of the school. You deal with it, from the grassroots up. And you spoke about something so important, like a teacher probably late at school not having breakfast. But your book actually teaches a teacher, for example, that get into a routine, get into a healthy lifestyle, and get into the understanding that you are a Khalifa of Allah on this earth. So become,
Right, right.
come to school prepared. I really like that idea. However, I just want an elaboration on the culture deck, because it
Mm-hmm.
can be
Mm-hmm.
a significant takeaway for everyone listening, and perhaps the stimulus to actually buy this book and read it, because that for me is a fundamental way to get started into redefining the culture of a school.
Definitely, brother. There was a survey done on more than 1,000 principals, and they were asked
Mhm.
which is the most important part, right, or the responsibility that you think will help you succeed as a principal. So one option was aligning with the curriculum standards, or delegating tasks, or fulfilling completing the syllabus, and like this. And then one question was uh, fostering positive school culture. So more than 80% of the principal responded that it was fostering positive school culture, which was most important. Why? Because when you have a positive school culture, that's when people feel valued, they feel belonged, They feel that they are part of a mission, that they're doing something. So there is reduce or less resistance, and more extra mile attitude of coming forward and doing things. So what we said is that we have to a principal have to first understand the vision of the school, and then form a team with the teachers to to set a culture. Culture is not about writing few things on the board. It's about creating those living statements. We live by these values.
Statement. So
Teachers,
I
principal.
want to add
Uh-huh.
to sorry, I want to just tie in because you mentioned Idris
Uh-huh.
Kamisa and you brought up the issue of the culture deck. And Idris asked the questions on the chat, which reads, "What
Uh-huh.
is Dr. Misbah's evaluation of schools presently?" And this ties in with the idea of the culture deck. So, what is
Yes.
Dr. Misbah's evaluation of schools presently? Dr. Misbah, that is your friend, our friend, Dr. Idris Kamisa,
Yeah.
talking to us. I've given him a new title today.
Mashallah. Oh, he's more than a friend. He's a mentor, mashallah. Jolly good fella.
MashaAllah.
So yeah, and but that he is giving me a tough question now. The present, see, schools are still working as, I would say, a machinery, as a factory for the industry. Schools presently, see, I would compare with schools a decade ago. So those schools were focusing more on, let's say, job, career related or job related skills. But now schools are
Mhm.
talking more about EQ, SQ, and they're talking about AI, intelligence, and all of that. But I say even that is job related. The industry needs that now. So the schools are actually transforming as per the needs of the industry. They're not taking a stand to fulfill their purpose. The purpose of a school is to shape the society, to create individuals who will solve the problems, who will create this harmony and synergy in the society. However, we are creating individuals who will actually go out there and actually become a good employees, good fodder for the industry. So even now, that's what is happening. uh, if the principals take charge, start fostering positive school culture, work with their teachers to create a culture, and then the teachers in turn go to their classes, work with children to create a classroom culture. See, vision to school culture, and then from school culture to classroom culture. Every child, every classroom can have a different culture, but it has to be in sync with the overall culture of the school, and the overall culture of the school has to be in sync with the vision. So if we work together and come up with those, and it has to be more like a culture in progress. So if you write down what you believe in, what you like to do, how we grow, what are our strengths, what are our values, and you write it down, and we live by this, we stand by this. This is what we do, this is what we do not do, this is how we work with each other, this is how we support each other. If you write down those things, that's when and talk about it on a regular basis. That's when the culture gets in. If you do not have a culture in place, then a different culture comes in, it seeps in, because when there are gaps, how shaitan comes in, how evil seeps in, and then the different kind of a culture comes in. So you have to consciously work together with each other to develop a culture, and then put it up, make it visible, make it feasible and doable.
Absolutely.
Yes, brother.
Dr. Misbah, I've been challenged with this interview, trying to, shade myself from the sun, so and the wind, but I've been intrigued by the conversation. I want to add, because we're coming to the close of the program, you know, long gone now is the principal's focus on the vision of the school as an entirety. There's a whole culture that has to be re-established to meet the social demands of the world. Because when you look at Palestine at the moment, which is being ravaged by war, can you imagine the culture deck that will have to be enveloped in the learning circles, because schools are destroyed. I just
Mm-hmm.
saw on Al Jazeera that they're having sessions of satire to lessen the burden of emotional trauma. And it's just amazing how those Palestinians, the Ummah, are resilient to
Resilience, yes.
all this, and they bring about the understanding, and thanks for your book, they are collaborating with all people of knowledge, and they're giving time and space for education. And that is my takeaway, people. You might not understand this, but when you read collaborative, the book of collaborative of Dr. Musbah, collaborative leadership, it actually, for me, it brings me to understand the Palestinian scenario. That in this mayhem, they have collaborated with artists, with people who actually who do
Mm-hmm.
circus acts, and they've learned all of that to help children deal with the issues around them. It's amazing, and somehow it pinches onto Misbah's book, Collaborative Leadership. So my closing question: if you were to take this book, Dr. Misbah, and you were in the heart of Gaza, probably in Rafah, how would you begin to make them collaborate and bring up issues of leadership in that scenario? Because I put this back to you. You said in the beginning of the book, we have to make our children the trustees of Allah. I know it's a loaded question, but you will definitely handle it.
Exactly. Whether one of the things I also mentioned is that a lot, probably more than 80% of learning is actually informal. It is not through the books. Even though I have come up with integrated curriculum for nursery to class 5, wherein I've written books on English, math, science, where I try to bring Almighty Creator into the classroom, and then and every concept from the worldview of Quran and Islam. The point is, it's not the books that makes it different. It's the informal learning. So if I'm there, I would be using I would be using the scenario. I will be using the informal learning, the environment, right, and what's happening on ground to relate to what is needed, right? I would set clear objectives. The way I've mentioned, you have to define your goals, and then you have to enable, the body, mind, heart, soul framework, and then help them learn, live, and lead. So I'll be using these concepts, all these concepts, and using the scenario out there, and help children build the values that I've mentioned in the book: the value of empathy, the value of resilience, the value of belief, faith, and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of what we have to accept the situation we are in, and then trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our matters and become his trustee to do whatever is in our capacity to fulfill the needs of the needy as needed. Become a contributor. Instead of expecting anything from others, you start giving what you can, doing what you can, no matter how small it can be. So if you can embed these values, and if you can inspire the children out there and anywhere in the world, that's when the whole world will become a better place, because we're not expecting things. We are rather on the giving side, and that's how the world will become a productive and a more contributing and conducive and involving place. Jazakallahu khair.
Certificate of appreciation, and also a waqf certificate, and enduring reward for your efforts. Inshallah, that will be emailed to you by Brother Zafar Ahmed. And it is a gift from our side to say Jazakallah khair for your time that
Yeah.
you've given us here this afternoon. It's a GAIS certificate of appreciation and a waqf certificate to acknowledge your contribution to the Ummah. To the listeners, it has been a remarkable discussion. I could have spoken to Dr. Misbah for another hour, but I've got to enjoy the wonderful setting of Drakensberg here in South Africa. And it's
Yeah.
a beautiful day. And I've got 2 nights with children here, and we're going to have, I would say, a very good time. Jazakallah khair, Dr.
Yeah,
Misbah.
brother.
Allah bless you.
Brother. Yes.
And
Before
Allah
before we
subhanahu wa
wind up.
Yep.
Yeah. Before we wind up, I would like to acknowledge Dr. Syed Saab. He has been, the reason, or maybe the mentor behind. He kind of pushed me to write this book, and also it was a part of the thesis, for my PhD as well. And I would also like to thank Sabahat Fatima. She was the co-author who helped me put this all together in the form of a proper book, and my entire team, which has been with the supportive, well supportive all the time, whether it is preparing for this presentation, or whether it's preparing for the book, or implementing this, through our different channels of teacher training or curriculum. I would like to thank all my team and the well-wishers who have helped me implement this and helped me see the results so far. And as far as the way how to obtain this book, you can we will share an email ID in the book. It will be there on Amazon as well. I'm releasing the next version of this book. It will talk about the levels. I've mentioned about what each stakeholder, principal, management, everybody, what they have to do. Now the next book will be talking about the levels of where they are and how they can go to the next level and the next level. We have talked about 4 levels in 6 stages. Inshallah, that book will be out, and it will also be available on Amazon. As of now, you can obtain this through an email. We will share the email ID, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so
Jazakallah
very
khair.
much.
I hope to meet you in India, explore what you've
Very
done
soon,
physically, and inshallah we will meet. And again, on behalf of
inshallah.
GAIS, we want to thank you again. And the certificate of appreciation will be emailed to you, and the Waqf certificate, enduring reward um, for you on behalf of the Awqaf Foundation of South Africa. Dr. Misbah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.